Hello, everyone. I am so excited to begin Sweep and Smile. My house is already looking better than it was because as I've been putting the material together and figuring out what the most important tasks are, how to phrase the worksheet for people, I kind of can't just then ignore my own house while I'm doing all that. So far, even already, this has been great for my home. So I'm excited to practice the habits with you and to help you see what habits and what tasks are important in your house. And let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me. Okay, good. Yay, it's working. Woohoo. So I'm really excited. Yes, yay, it's good to see all of you here. Okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to totally keep up with everything in the chat box, but this is going to stay right here so you can come back to the same link and watch the replay again and scroll through all of the comments again. And yeah, this will all stay right here. So, yay! Nope, I'm the only one on video. Don't worry about that. 10 p.m. there. Wow. All right. All right. So, yes, we're going to begin. And I see you guys hopping on, lots of people hopping on. So we'll just kind of do a casual start here before we dive in too much. I see you're asking questions here at the bottom, and that's awesome. I'll try to leave some time to maybe work through some of these. Some of these I might save for answering at our troubleshooting sessions other Fridays. So we'll be doing this. And so if you noticed at the top of this, there are right underneath the word schedule, I think, there are little dots. So this is actually the same link you can come to for all of the troubleshooting chats. And there are 7 sessions total. And so each of those dots is a session that has a separate chat bar, a separate section for questions and answers. So if during the week you want to just hop over and add your question beforehand to the question and answer section under there, feel free. That's awesome. And then we can make sure that it gets answered or gets at least addressed somewhat. All right. Yes. Yes. So if you're having trouble, just hit reload and it should work. If you are trying to do this on an Apple mobile device, that I read that it's iffy. So, but there is a Crowdcast Apple app. So you can do that. If you're on an Android mobile device, it works. Or Chrome is the best browser to use, period, for anything. Okay, the app on your iPhone is working. Good. Awesome. Okay, thank you, Don. It's always hard to know. It's like, okay, is it me or is it them? Yay, yes, Chrome. Chrome is the best browser to use. If you're having trouble doing anything on the net, just try it in Chrome. Good, reloading works, awesome. So yeah, so you can ask questions down there. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but I also see, yeah, you can comment there. So you can add comments or suggestions, help each other brainstorm. Really, this whole program is not just about me talking to you and telling you what to do, although I promise that I will tell you what to do because I'm the oldest of 7, so I'm pretty good at being bossy. I have a lot of practice. But it's also about pulling us all together as a community to spur each other on and sharing solutions, things we've tried, just kind of get that spitballing together. That's a really gross word, But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I've usually used brainstorming. So so yeah. So answer each other's questions, offer suggestions as we go along, and the chat box will stay here, and the Q&As and people's comments there will stay there. The replay will stay here. So don't worry, snowball. All right, so I could see snowballing, building up a bigger and bigger. Everyone adds a little until you get a big ball of solutions or something. Hopefully, yeah, you could only see me. Hopefully my house won't be too wild and crazy. I just realized I didn't close the door. So that's going to be interesting. Awesome. Bossy, eldest of 6. Awesome. Awesome. I have an oldest son and I try not to let him be bossy. So but you know, he tries. We all do. I'm not bossy. I'm right. I like that. Okay. So, we're going to talk obstacles to house cleaning today. And so there's a poll there on the side. And yep, that was my suspect. I have 3 kind of categories that we're going to talk about as far as obstacles. Ourselves, other souls, and our stuff, because they all, you know, has to be alliterative. So by far, 70%, it says, have answered myself. So yes, as you're all answering, the percentages, the bars are changing there a little bit, but pretty much 70% are self. Yeah, I am my own biggest problem. That is how I feel personally. And so I'm glad that we can all relate to each other on that one and really try to work on that in these next 6 weeks, that it's really less about the state of the house and more about helping us do what we're supposed to be doing. Like, we know we should, but then we give ourselves excuses or try to talk ourselves out of it or let other things crowd in. It's like, well, what kind of should pressure am I placing on myself? Am I saying I should when I really don't need to? And so it's unreasonable guilt. Am I saying I should? And then it's, but I don't really believe it. Am I saying I should? And then I'm rebelling against that. You know, I have this kind of parent inner 2-year-old conflict going on in my head all the time. Yeah, I've been in all of those situations. Still do. That's just a normal thing. So, yes, I'm a rebel. Yeah. Okay, I better not try to keep up with the chat box. That's what so definitely, as we're working on our home routines in the next 6 weeks, what we're really working on is ourselves, our habits, figuring out what kind of obligation we should place on ourselves, what shoulds we should let go of, and then really sticking to those shoulds that we've put on ourselves. So if we put that feeling of obligation, responsibility, duty on ourselves, and then don't do it for whatever reason, we have the habit of basically disobeying ourselves. We have the habit of letting our inner 2-year-old be and stay a 2-year-old and disobeying our inner parent, which is really the direction we want to be going, like that voice or that part of ourselves that says, you know what path you're supposed to be on, you know where you need to be headed, let's do this. Listening to that self more and more. There is no way to switch the switch, pull the switch, flip the switch, whatever you do to switches, and just snap, become a new person, or snap, only listen to that version of yourself and not your 2-year-old self. But Just like training a toddler, you have to repeat the same thing over and over and over again until they get it. That's what we have to do for ourselves as well. So that's what we're going to be practicing these 6 weeks, is making sure that as our inner parent, we have consistent rules for ourselves and we're keeping that line, and we're not being unreasonable to ourselves. And then on the 2-year-old side, disciplining the inner 2-year-old and pulling that, training that 2-year-old to grow up. Maybe we'll have a 5-year-old, inner 5-year-old. And then, eventually, I think it's going to take more than 6 weeks, but maybe eventually we can mostly have an inner 10-year-old or 12-year-old. I'm not sure if an inner 11 or 12-year-old is better than an inner 2-year-old, but yeah, I know I wish there were a switch. I don't know how many times over, I've been married and homemaking for 16 years next month. And how many times I, make the plan, make the list. These are the things I need to do. There is enough time to do them. I'm going to do it like this. Have the plan all in place. Go to bed, set the alarm, and I'm going to wake up in the morning and I need to jump on the bandwagon. I need to turn a new leaf. I need to basically wake up and be a completely different person than I used to be. And it never worked. Sometimes it would work for one day, but never 2 days in a row. So that's why in this 6-week program, we're going to gradually build up. Instead of looking at everything and putting together a full system and then practicing it for 6 weeks. Instead, we're going to take a small chunk and work it out and implement it. And then another small chunk, and then another small chunk, and take baby steps to build it up. So that's what we are going to do. Yeah, I know I always want to wake up a new person, but no one ever does. So if you've tried that and it hasn't worked, it's not because something is wrong with you. Something was wrong with the way you were trying to work the plan. And not even necessarily wrong with the plan, but we need to kind of treat that inner 2-year-old like a 2-year-old and say, okay, if I were parenting this little whiny inside self that I listen to in the moment, what would be the steps? You wouldn't outline all the requirements and all the things that you want them to do by the time they're 10, and then just expect them to wake up the next morning being that person. That 2-year-olds don't work that way. And unfortunately, not even we work that way. So we have to take step by step to get from where we are to where we want to be. So, yeah. I think giving yourself a metaphor, giving yourself a way, these kind of categories to pop into your head helps a lot. Because then when you have the plan, the time comes you're supposed to do it, inevitably what's going to happen is you're not going to want to, right? And I don't feel like it right now. I don't this, I don't that. And especially if you have children, and the more children you have, or the older that they've gotten, you realize, kids can get pretty creative with their excuses and their reasons why that they feel are perfectly valid. They don't have to do what you said. And, you might have been that kind of child. I was definitely that kind of child. I got pretty good at it. And so what I have to do now is undo those habits that I built up as a child of coming up with reasonable excuses, reasons why I didn't have to do what I should have been doing, was told to do. And so that's what we're doing. We're overcoming years and years and years of bad habits. And then that helps us too with our children, and it kind of gives us direction and purpose. We're not just trying to, enforce child labor. Not only that, anyway. We are helping them not have at least as bad habits as we did, or as entrenched bad habits, where the more they can just get used to obeying, doing what needs to be done, the better they will be able to obey, themselves, that conscience, with that adult version of themselves when their inner 2-year-old rebels, and it also, that metaphor also allows us to function still as the parent with our children, but also as peers, because we all are persons. We all share the same struggles, and we don't have to be over and above them entirely. We can say, hey, this is just something that's difficult for all people, but we're supposed to try. And that's what we're going to do by the grace of God. And with the grace of God. So, yes. Okay. Yeah, nothing ever seems to get done. I know. I have some quotes to share. I might have to pop them into the email instead, because it turned out I had to install something to screen share, and that didn't work in time. So maybe next time I'll share the quotes. And it's always not finished. Yeah. So the 3 kind of categories for obstacles that we're going to talk about, and we've already kind of covered the self issue, because that really is oftentimes our biggest hang up, are ourselves, other souls, and our stuff. And I'm going to read the quotes anyway. I have a bunch of C.S. Lewis quotes. So our own selves can be an obstacle. And one of my favorite C.S. Lewis quotes on trying to figure out what we should be doing and doing it, having the plan, but then doing the plan, and not trying to wake up and be a new person, experience that most of us have had. I love this C.S. Lewis quote. He says, "Very often, the only way to get equality is to start behaving as if you had it already." So we want to be a certain kind of person, but we don't want to do the work to get there. We want to be a certain person. We want it to be easy to do what we should do. And that's just not the way life works. It's not the way sanctification works. And so we can look at this and see this as an area of life where we can grow in sanctification. And I know when I was younger and, kind of starting to think along these lines, I really did not want to go there, because it seemed like saying that if I didn't keep up on the laundry, or if my floors were dirty or whatever, I'm in sin. And I was like, I know that that's not right. But yet there is this sort of, I am supposed to be trying harder or doing something more. So how do I work? How do I balance these principles or concepts out? And I tried for a while, going a way too extreme on the, it's not sin, so therefore it doesn't matter at all. And let me just tell you, been there, not good. Not good, not true, not beautiful, not lovely. And we are supposed to do our work heartily as unto the Lord. And housework is just one of those things where it's not necessarily the current state of the house that matters so much as doing our duty cheerfully and for God's glory. And if we're doing it for His glory, then, we can have that open hand for circumstances that make it not possible to have a clean house all the time. Like if it's for God's glory, then we can know, okay, the way I'm treating my children comes first, or the guest that just knocked on my door, or someone who just called and needs to talk. When I know it's that my purpose and why I'm doing what I'm doing is to glorify God, I know, okay, those come first. And then I also know that when I'm browsing Facebook while I should be folding laundry, or I should be this or that, when I'm not using my time well, when I'm not, it's why are you doing laundry? It's so that my family can have clean clothes. It's all of these things are really serving people. And that matters. That does matter. And how we do that matters, because we're either glorifying God or glorifying ourselves. So it's okay to take breaks and, have parties that make more work and then do the work. All of it is for glorifying God. And that gives us meaning, and it helps us in finding that balance of not gripping the state of our homes too tightly so that we're all stressed out when it's actually being used. But then also not just saying, well, it doesn't actually matter, so I'm actually not going to do it. There are the two ditches, right? And finding the right path is only found in doing it for the right reason, which is glorifying God. And so then this C.S. Lewis quote where he says, very often the only way to get equality is to start behaving as if you had it already, kind of points us to the fact that we can't wake up the next morning a new person, like realize our mistakes, repent, and that's it. It's a one-time thing. And now we are all better. It doesn't work that way. We have to start practicing. We have to start doing it. If we want to be a person whose home is hospitable to our families and to others, that starts with baby steps. That starts with doing the next right thing. It starts with, okay, that means I have a load of laundry. That's what I'm going to do, even though that's my least favorite chore. It's going to be good for me. And, we're going to practice other tips and tricks and, kind of mental tricks even to help us deal with the kind of menial or tedious or repetitive nature of things as we go. But what we just need to be practiced in choosing to honor God in what we're doing next and letting that be the filter, and to say, I'm not going to be a whole new person right away, but right now I'm going to do what a good housekeeper, what a hospitable hostess would do right now. Even if I didn't yesterday, even if I didn't an hour ago, right now I am. And the more we practice, the more steps we're taking down that road. So it is progress, even though it doesn't feel like it. It takes lots and lots of practice, kind of like the 10,000 hour thing. And then here's another C.S. Lewis quote along those lines. He says, happy work is best done by the man who takes his long-term plans somewhat lightly and works from moment to moment as to the Lord. So I think that part of my discouragement in, trying to keep up with the house is feeling like I never arrive. Like what I really want is to arrive. And at different times that means different things. Like sometimes that actually means not having to work anymore at all. Like arriving would mean the work is all done. And that kind of arriving is glory. That's heaven. That's not right here, right now. So that kind of arriving, I am never going to achieve. I should stop working as if that's my goal, because that's not a true goal. That's not a realistic goal. That's not a goal in line with the way the world actually works. So the long-term plan we might have of having a house that's always clean. And we can have a house that's sometimes clean, but we can have a house where we're always trying to take steps to get it back to a happy state, to a decently in order state. But there are always going to be things that happen in life that get things out of control. Things are going to get out of your control. There are going to be times where you're sick, where everyone's sick, where you move, or you have a new baby, or you're put on bed rest, or, you know, any number of things can happen where we had pretty good systems, we were doing pretty well. Things will fall apart. They just will. And that doesn't even necessarily mean that we've done anything wrong. It just means that now we know what's next. So we need to have our vision, our, you know, that place that we want to be, the person we want to be, but hold it loosely enough that we aren't frustrated at not arriving there. We have to be content and happy working toward it, and with small progress, small step progress. And knowing that we just need to do the right thing where we are right now and not worry about where we wish we were, if that makes sense. So let me just see where we are. Yeah. It's really all about your expectations. Always clean. You know, we can have the goal of making it maybe more regularly, more clean than it is now. But that's different than trying to maintain a level that's like magazine photo shoot ready. I was like, that's not going to happen. Not when your home is a home, a tool for hospitality. There is not a problem with there being dishes in the sink after dinner. You know, the goal is not to keep your sink empty and shiny all the time. The goal is that the sink is ready to wash the dishes after meals. You know, so kind of paying attention to those expectations that we put on ourselves, paying attention to what we think our goal is, paying attention to what we think of as the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing, and saying, well, does that actually line up with reality or not? And not just reality like I've never been able to, so I'm never going to be able to, so I'm just going to give up now. Not that kind of reality, but the kind of reality that is in line with the way God made the world. The way the world works right now, there is entropy. Everything tends to disorder. If you aren't making progress, you are slipping backwards like a treadmill. You know, if you aren't taking steps, some steps that you take are keeping you in the same place. You have to take steps to stay in the same place, and you have to run in order to get ahead. And if you don't move at all, you're moving backwards. So that's entropy. That's the way the world works now, you know, probably post-fall. You know, we can blame Adam and Eve for that one, but that is the way it works right now. We think that, well, I'm just not going to do anything, and that's neutral. But it's not neutral. It's negative. It's negativity. It's backwards because there is entropy. It's real. So we feel frustrated because we're taking steps and not getting anywhere, but the steps that we're taking are just the maintenance steps. Maintenance steps are just the staying in place steps. And we have to actually sprint to get ahead. But then we sprint and stop to catch our breath and end up backwards. And then we're like, what did I do all that for? And it's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the world. So it's physics, baby. I like that. So just even knowing that and realizing that helps us take a big deep breath and not have an emotional meltdown. I don't know if you ever have emotional children where you have to like talk them off the ledge. We have to do that to ourselves too. So you have a little moment, a little panic moment, and you just take a deep breath, talk yourself off the ledge and say, it's okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to take steps. Maybe I learned that I'm not a very good sprinter. And I thought that sprinting would let me not do anything. And I learned something. Maybe, I just need to pick up my pace a little bit. And instead of trying to sprint and then stop, I'm going to walk, maybe with a little quick step now and again. Or so, what I'm trying to keep the metaphor working, but yeah. Oh, emotional mommy meltdowns are real. Don't. Yeah. Yes. Well, making decisions is hard. Making decisions is very hard. So it's good to pair up with a friend, especially one who knows you. Well, we'll get to stuff. Stuff is the third point. All right, so we've covered ourself, right? Ourself as an obstacle, and we'll circle back around that to wrap up as well. But moving on, a second kind of obstacle that we face is other people, right? Other people in our house. So it's hard enough to get ourselves on board, but we do it, we manage it maybe, and we're working our plan pretty well, and we're pretty happy with ourselves at long last. And then other people mess it up. Someone else does something that messes up the plan, and then we lose it because I just worked so hard getting myself geared up to keep this plan that I needed everyone else to just fall in line with this without me actually talking to them about it, because I've already had to talk to myself about it. And, blah. I have to get other people on board too after I just spent all this time and energy getting myself on board. It's just a little much. So yeah. When we feel that way, and I think that I'm pretty safe to say we all do at some point at least, we have to step back and again talk ourselves off the ledge once more and realize what the point of all of this is, because the children, ourselves, but also our children, are not here to serve the house. Like, the house is not the goal, and everyone's like trying to keep the prize. It's the thing that matters, and everyone else is serving it. The house is the stage, the setting, the way that we serve others. It's the place that we serve others. And it's the setting for life, for love. It's the stage, the backdrop. And what kind of a backdrop is it? What kind of a stage is it? Do we need a stage shift? We just ended a scene. Maybe it's the dinner scene. And then, the lights dim and people scurry around. Now we need a moment where we scurry around and get set for the next scene. And that's kind of the way we need to think about our housework, that we aren't serving the state of the house and trying to make it a certain way all the time, but that we're just trying to get it ready for its next job. But it's the one with the job. It's the thing serving a function. And the people are the point. And so if we're putting the state of the house before the people, we're the ones with the problem, not them. And so that's where the repent, rejoice, repeat motto comes in again, not only in homeschooling, but in life. So we can take a step back and say, okay, this is a point in time then where the state of the house, I need to back off and I need to put others first. Sometimes the state of the house can become an idol that we have to let go more than we're comfortable with. We can seesaw back and forth between needing to let it go and needing to step it up. It's not the state of the house itself that matters so much as our sanctification, are glorifying God, serving other people, loving other people. So are we keeping up the house as a way of loving people? Or is the way we're keeping house, not loving, unkind to the people who are living in the house? So that really needs to be evaluated as we go. So the kids should be pitching in, definitely, because we're training them to become adults. Like, we want them to be responsible adults. And just like we cannot flip a switch, they're not going to be able to flip a switch either. They're not going to be able to flip a switch when, they're not going to wake up, go to sleep as a child and wake up as an adult. That's not going to happen for them, just like it doesn't happen for us. And they are not going to be able to go to sleep as someone who never helps out and wake up as someone who will cheerfully pitch in anytime you ask them to. It's training that can take years, and you see little hints of fruit, but then there will be another level. And I got this. Okay, this next metaphor is, I'm totally stealing from Rachel Jankovic, and I think it's in Loving the Little Years, which is an awesome book. I highly recommend Loving the Little Years by Rachel Jankovic. Each chapter is just a little kick in the pants right where you are kind of reminder. I just love them. But she likens life and, your housekeeping, your parenting, your all those things that we're trying to do and be, to math. And, when you're in first grade or whatever, addition is hard. And just because addition isn't hard for, say, a 10-year-old or 12-year-old, doesn't mean that it's not hard for a first grader. You are where you are, and you're not going to stay there. Like, your goal in first grade is not to learn addition so that you're done with math. After you're done with, when you're good at that, then you move on to subtraction. Like, you keep leveling up, and no matter how old you are, what grade you're in, math is hard. But you're doing harder and harder, more and more, layering and layering of math concepts. You're getting better at math, but it's still always hard. And life is like that too. Parenting is like that. Housework is like that. So also, our goal is not that we're going to finally get to the point where it's always easy, because we're not ever, like, that's a false expectation. It might get easier. We might get used to working at a challenge, but there's always going to be something that's challenging us, that's making it hard. And that's because that's how we grow. So that's God, that's sanctification. That's how sanctification happens, is there's some challenge there where you realize that, oh, now I see my sin more. You attack some sins, you repent, but that doesn't mean that now it's going to be easy. It means now it's like another layer of the onion that you see, and you go, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that I was this, that, or the other thing. And so there's always going to be some kind of challenge in one way or another. And so to embrace that and just recognize that, and not be working for easy, because life's not supposed to be easy. You're supposed to be where you are, do the next thing. Like, okay, what do I need to learn or be or grow toward now? And there you go. And the same thing goes for our children. And so we can help them along the way as well. So they can help out, and that can be a help for us. But yeah, a lot of the times it's going to be more work to get them to help out than it is to just do it ourselves. Or we might be trying to train them to help out in order to make it easier on ourselves. And that's a bad reason. And doing the right thing for the wrong reason is often going to make us frustrated. Even if we're doing it, we're not going to feel it. Doing the right thing for the wrong reason is still mostly wrong. Or depending on the thing and the, anyway. So we're helping them grow in responsibility and grow in ability. And that's a process that takes time, that you get better at, and then you backslide. You know, they're on the treadmill too. They have a growth spurt, and they have hormonal, emotional issues where it's like, wait a sec, I feel like you lost, we made so much progress, and I feel like you're, you know, that's life for all of us, ourselves, our kids, our everybody. So we're just living life together. And again, not working for easy, not working for offloading our responsibilities onto them, but helping prepare them for life. So, right. And it might make your life easier some of the time, but not all of the time. And then again, there'll be shifts that happen that make it hard again. So when it's hard again, just because something is hard doesn't mean something is wrong. And your goal isn't to make it easy. So, you know, just really watching expectations and reasons why and all of that is really important as we address our attitude as well as our homes in these next 2 weeks or 6 weeks, not 2 weeks. So remember that the kids are people, persons too, they're souls, not part of the problem. Maybe they are makers of the problem, but they're not the problem. Like, that's life. Just like they needed dinner and they ate dinner, the dishes aren't a problem. The dishes are the aftermath that needs to be taken care of, that people should learn how to do eventually. But, you know, that's life. So our goal isn't to try to make it so there are never dirty dishes. And that one's pretty obvious, but then there are other things, you know, where it's like the playroom should always be picked up. Like, well, isn't it a playroom? Isn't it for playing? It's going to need to be picked up regularly. Yes, stewarding our homes as a resource that we're using to love people, love God and love people with our homes. The home itself isn't the goal or the reason for something. The goal is loving God and loving others. So to try to keep that as the focus as we go about what we're doing. Maybe fewer cups, that would be, I've been there. I eliminate, I'm like, yes, anyway, I've been there. So, well, that's a good transition into the third point, which is stuff. Blame stuff, but it's actually me. Yeah, well, you know, join the club. Hold on a second, I need a drink. Okay, so take a drink. What stuff of yours is not books don't count as stuff. They're never a problem. No, never a problem, not books. Never books. What stuff is your biggest problem around the house? Like, or is there a place that collects stuff? Or is there a certain category of stuff? What are the stuff problems in your home? Lots of toys, lots of paper, some people insisting on the books. Lots of toys, lots of paper, clothes, yeah. Laundry is another way of saying clothes. Projects. Kids with projects, for sure. So all flat surfaces, amen. Yeah, some things that might be useful. Okay, clutter's way too vague. anything can be clutter and junk. Clutter and junk are cop-out words. All right, hobby stuff. Yep, kids stuff. Never my stuff. It's always the kids stuff that's the problem. Out of place, I like that. Out of place, anything. So that's exactly right. And that was a direction I was going to go. No one wants to walk 15 feet to put it away. That's right, including myself often. I'm just gonna put this on, horizontal space, right? Because I'm not going that direction right now. Or pretty soon I'll be something else that needs to go downstairs, so I'll just wait. And when we lived for a while on a split level, and I was going through a phase of trying to get away with doing as little as possible. So I actually did have a little spot at the top of the stairs that I just tossed anything that needed to go downstairs. And I actually did get pretty good at always, whenever I did go downstairs, grabbing, because I was big on trying to learn efficiency. So that whereas if you're intentional about, like, you have a reason, you say, okay, I'm putting it here. This is a home, even if it's a temporary home, because we need some place where it's easy to toss, so it's not on the floor or on the kitchen counter. But, just accept the reality that no one's going to take it all the way downstairs every time. But to set up maybe strategic temporary homes and say, okay, and then during our afternoon cleanup time, which we will get to in this series, or during morning cleanup or evening cleanup, whenever you can have a daily time set aside where those things do get addressed, maybe weekly, and maybe it gets addressed, during those break weeks. But it's okay to set up temporary homes, and that can be a baby step way of taking care of the cluttery feeling, is to give something a temporary home and say, okay, maybe this isn't ideal, this is not the way I want it to work, but I'm kind of working with the patterns, the reality of life right now and our patterns of behavior, and I'm going to step us toward the right direction and say, okay, I know I'm not going to take everything downstairs the instant I need to put it away, so I'm going to put a basket here. And that's where things are going to go. And when I do, I'm going to take at least one or two things with me and put them away. So that can be one way to baby step into that and work, instead of getting frustrated that life doesn't work the way you want it to, other people don't work the way you don't work the way you want you to kind of accommodate it a little bit, to just acknowledge reality and the current traffic patterns or habit patterns, and work with it, come up with a temporary solution or a halfway solution, and be okay with that. It doesn't have to be perfect in the first attempt. You can have a halfway attempt that's progress, and you'll make farther and better progress making that halfway step than if you waited or tried to insist upon the perfect or ideal way, the way you really want things to be. Especially when you're working with other people's habit patterns, traffic patterns. You're going to have a lot more success with small changes than with saying, okay, stop everything. Here, I have an idea. How about you wake up as a whole new person tomorrow? That's just FYI, not going to work so well. Okay, yes, so school papers in the fireplace. Have the kids put their used stuff in the fireplace as, fire whatever. And suddenly it's awesome. They're looking forward to getting rid of their stuff because they get to burn it on fire. I mean, how is that not awesome? Okay. Yes, artwork to parents, grandparents, I mean. Yep, photos. These are all good suggestions. So really, the key to this stuff problem is homes, giving things homes. And that can be a temporary home. So a declutter session might just involve taking a big basket or tub or whatever and shoving things in and saying, okay, this is where the stuff is living right now. And we're going to, work from that and find new homes slowly and gradually. Sometimes you even need a room for it. If it's really bad, you just say, okay, for now, if it doesn't have a home, we're going to put it in there. And you can slowly deal with it from there, but to kind of clear your main areas, because you're thinking of the stage, right? So what's getting in the way? Clear it, even if it means having a garbage room, a clutter room. You're not going to necessarily, when you're decluttering, things usually get worse before they get better, right? So you're not necessarily going to be able to declutter everything out of the house on a first go round. The first go round might just be clearing the main areas of your home where most of your family life happens and getting stuff out of those areas so that you can function better there. Even if that means putting it in a bedroom, putting it in the guest bedroom, a storage area, maybe even your bedroom, not ideal, but it happens. Sometimes that's the only area that there is. But, that's a baby step. That's a good baby step, and that's progress. One way that it's progress is just that you're getting used to functioning in an area that's decluttered. And that can spread just as a mentality, kind of like that C.S. Lewis quote where he said the only way to get a virtue is to behave as if you had it already. When you start functioning in, say, a kitchen or a living room or a schoolroom or something that's decluttered, even if none of your other houses are, you grow into being a person who likes it decluttered. It gets trickier because you're not the only person in your house. And, our stuff is only a fraction of the stuff in our home. More stuff in our homes is not ours than is ours personally. So there's all kinds of personal relations mixed up with all the stuff that makes it tricky and hard. But kind of choosing a hub and saying, okay, this spot is going to be decluttered. And as you work on decluttering that space, even if it's just moving it to other spaces, as you declutter that and get used to living in that, it can slowly start radiating out. And when I say slowly, I mean it can be a 5-year process. It's just reality there. So yeah. Okay, your clutter room has been like that for 2 years. See, I said it might be 5 years. So don't worry. You're only halfway there. You still have 3 years left to have your hub radiate out. And yeah, I maybe will or will not share pictures of my storage area. And we have a storage area downstairs. It's where, it's like, okay, I can't deal with this now. It's going to go there. So at least it's not on the main level. And it's not usually in my bedroom. Sometimes it moves from the main area to my bedroom and then down to the storage area. And, twice a year, I have to deal with that room. Because no matter how many homes I give things, the things that we have, the things that we need change, or we need to pull out this, that, or the other thing, the Christmas stuff, the camping stuff, the out of season clothes. Stuff comes in and out and stuff comes in the house and stuff comes in and in. And so it's organizing is not a once and done thing. Even decluttering is not a once and done thing. A free parking area. I like that. I like that. Because then when you name it that, like you give it a fun name and you just acknowledge reality, you give it's better. You're not frustrated. Then you're like, no, that's its job. It's doing its job. I'm doing my job. That spot is not, a problem. That is a spot that's holding things so I can deal with them later. It's doing its job. That reminds me of like the Frances book, The Bedtime for Frances. And she comes and it's like the moth is bumping into the window. The wind is blowing the curtains. It's doing its job. It might be bothering you, but it's just the thing doing its job. So go to sleep. Yes, nothing. Well, I'm giving you permission because it's true. Nothing's going to be permanent. Not the solutions, not the stuff, not the decluttering, not the homemaking, not the dishes, not the laundry, not the organizing. None of it's permanent. So we're making progress and knowing that things, the waves, it's a tide. There's a, Melissa Wiley's title, Homeschooling, there's low tide and high tide. And if the tide is the chaos, there's also high tide and low tide times. And it's just it's regular. You can count on it. It'll happen. So, so we have already been talking for about an hour. And I was thinking this would be like, 40 minutes or so, but I haven't even gotten to your questions. So, but I hope that's helpful, and I hope that gives you, just a focus on what our priorities are, what our reasons are, how we're going about doing what we're doing. It's not so that we can have the right checklist and check everything off. We are setting the stage for life to happen. We are loving our families by doing the work that we're doing. And let's see, I'm going to grab the other quote that I was going to end with, which first, okay. So I found this C.S. Lewis quote because I was like, I knew there's a C.S. Lewis quote on homemaking, right? So there was kind of a pithy little quote that was attributed to C.S. Lewis about homemaking being the ultimate career. That was really a summary and not something that actually can be found in any of his published works, whether or not he's, But this is in one of his letters that have been published. So C.S. Lewis wrote a letter to a housewife who was complaining about things never being done. Just as soon as you do them, you have to redo them. Basic laundry problem. And so the actual quote in context, even though it's a paragraph, is way more helpful actually than the pithy quote. So I'm going to read it. So C.S. Lewis wrote to this housewife, I think I can understand that feeling about a housewife's work being that of Sisyphus, who was the stone rolling gentleman. So he pushed the stone up the hill only to have it roll back. That was his punishment, was to just continually roll the same stone up the hill, and it rolled back down every night. But it is surely, in reality, the most important work in the world. What do ships, railways, mines, cars, governments exist for, except that people may be fed, warmed, and safe in their own homes? As Dr. Johnson said, to be happy at home is the end of all human endeavor. First, to be happy, to prepare for being happy in our own real home, which is capitalized, so heaven. So being happy in our earthly home is preparation for being happy in heaven. And second, in the meantime, to be happy in our homes. We wage war in order to have peace. We work in order to have leisure. We produce food in order to eat it. So your job is the one for which all others exist. And that, of course, ties very closely to my favorite home quote by G.K. Chesterton, which is, "The business done in the home is nothing less than the shaping of the bodies and souls of humanity." So that homemaker's work being the one for which all other careers exist, all other work exists, isn't because the home is so important, but because the people are so important, and people need homes. So we're homemakers because people need homes. And the kind of homes that we are creating are the kind of homes that our people have. And it's the stage that they're living in, the set that shapes their life. So we are shaping the bodies and souls of humanity with the homemaking work that we're doing. So I think that allows us, that gives us the perspective to do our work well and find meaning in our housework, while also, holding it with that open hand and saying it's not actually the current state of the house that matters so much as how the home right now is shaping other people. So if I'm mean tyrant mom all the time, harping on everyone in order to have a clean home, it's shaping humanity. It's shaping our people, but not in a good way, even if the house were clean. Our attitude about it is way more important and way more shape. Like, that's what's shaping more than the actual state. So, we need to be doing our jobs and doing them to the best of our ability, but the people come first. And so that's not, so finding that balance, and we're not going to find that balance easily or quickly or always, like once we know it, or choose the right side on that balancing act, then we're good. It's every time when we're going to seesaw back and forth, and that's sanctification. It's a process, and we're learning and growing all the time. So it's shaping us as well. The housework that we're doing or not doing is shaping not only our families, our kids, our husband, but it's shaping us too. What kind of person are we growing up into? It's shaping humanity, whether for good or for bad. The state of the home is shaping people, our kids, but also ourselves. So, yeah. Oh, I didn't see who's Esselin is excellent author. So it's more important for our homes to be happy homes than to be clean homes, and definitely than to be sterile homes, right? That's not necessarily our goal. So, yeah, I will look through these comments here and work them in either to the next troubleshooting, or maybe we'll do, I can look at maybe we'll do another spontaneous kind of chat, or they'll work in the emails, or I'll put them on I'll work out what I'll do with these. But I think that's probably, I will email the quotes. Yes. So after the email for next week, for week 1 of the Sweep and Smile study, it's all ready to be sent out. It'll arrive in about an hour. So I will pop in and add these quotes before it goes out. And then it will include a worksheet that you can print out. And so every week of this study, the Friday email, which is arriving on Friday so that you have the weekend to kind of think about it and get set for the next week, but we'll be putting it into practice starting Monday. You'll have 3 decluttering steps, and a brain dump step, and then figuring out your routines that you're going to be practicing. And the routines are going to be cumulative. And the worksheet has a checklist. So it's all on a one-page checklist every week. And I think it's going to be super helpful. So yes, messy makes me crabby, right? So to have a happy home, actually having a clean home can help with that. So, yep, we're going to practice finding that balance between tyranny and crabby. That's the trick. So that's what we're practicing. That's why we're here, right? So deep breath, remember, for these 6 weeks, tuck yourself down off the ledge. Yeah, so watch for that email. It'll be arriving soon. And I'll talk to you. We'll be talking. We'll get to know each other well over these next 6 weeks. So thank you for joining me.